A goalkeeper in a shootout, a Canadian stuck in Baghdad, and a new hip-hop festival taking shape in downtown Ottawa. And later in the brief, the one decision Ottawa can't dodge for long: what exactly Canada does next as the Middle East conflict starts pulling in Canadians on the ground. In Ottawa today, it's about 3 degrees Celsius and cloudy. And a quick local note to start: a youth-led bilingual hip-hop festival called BlokJam is being built for September in downtown Ottawa. The plan is a free daytime program aimed at families, DJ showcases and dance-offs, then a ticketed night block party concert, with organizers hoping it becomes an annual platform for Ottawa Gatineau artists who often feel they have to leave for bigger scenes. Staying with short attention, big momentum, microdramas are gaining traction. Those 1 to 2 minute vertical episodes designed for phones, spread through social platforms, and stitched into longer stories over dozens of clips. Canadian producers and performers are starting to experiment with the format, but there are already questions about production standards and how performers are protected as the business models evolve. And in sports, Canada's women's soccer team ended the SheBelieves Cup with a win, though it took the long way. Canada and Argentina finished scoreless, and under tournament rules it went straight to penalties. Goalkeeper Kaylin Sheridan stopped 2 shots, and Canada took it 3-2 in the shootout to finish second overall. The U.S. won the tournament with a 1-0 win over Colombia, sealed by an 82nd minute goal from Alyssa Thompson. The Americans extended their shutout run again. They haven't allowed a goal since October. Turning now to the main thread: Canadians trying to get out of the Middle East as the conflict expands, and what Ottawa can realistically do, quickly, when airspace starts closing. Here's what's happening. As the fighting intensifies, Global Affairs says more than 108,000 Canadians have registered in the region, and about 3,500 have asked for help leaving. The government says it's booking flights for Canadians in places like Dubai and Beirut. But for people in nearby countries where airports are closed or airspace is restricted, the bottleneck is basic: there may not be a safe way to reach a plane. One case that makes this concrete: an Ottawa resident, Ali Daif, traveled to Iraq to get married and is now stranded in Baghdad because the airport is closed. He's described hearing aircraft overhead and living in shelter-like conditions, hoping he can route out through Jordan, if flights actually move. The key point is that evacuations aren't one operation, they're a chain. You need a safe corridor to get people to an airport, you need aircraft and slots, and you need routes that aren't suddenly cut off. Ottawa says it's using a mix of charter flights, block bookings on commercial carriers, and ground transportation, while also weighing sea routes, though those are being described as risky. Why does this matter now, beyond the obvious human urgency? Because this is where a foreign crisis becomes a domestic management problem. Phone lines, registration lists, triage, travel documents, and the inevitable question from families at home: when and how does help arrive? And there's a second layer. Canada's broader push to build deeper financial relationships in Gulf states is getting harder in real time. Even in places where daily life is continuing, the story includes postponed meetings, travel concerns, and a general pause in the relationship building that often precedes major investment decisions. If this conflict keeps widening, and if energy supply routes stay threatened, capital gets cautious fast. Midway reset. Earlier we mentioned Ottawa's next big decision point. This is it. As Canada focuses on evacuations, defense officials are also quietly gaming out what support Canada might be asked to provide to partners in the region. Everything from logistical help to defensive support, depending on how the conflict shifts and what allies request. That connects to another security warning floating around at home: the leverage baked into modern military interoperability. One CBC security analysis flags that a key tactical data link, Link 16, depends on U.S.-controlled encryption terminals. In plain terms, procurement choices can affect how seamlessly Canada can operate with allies, and whether approvals can become a political lever in moments of tension. Back in Canadian politics, that broader question of alignment is also showing up in messaging. Prime Minister Mark Carney is signaling a pivot toward deeper EU ties, while Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is arguing Canada shouldn't rupture its relationship with the United States. That's not just rhetoric. It shapes what trade-offs Canadians may be asked to accept if global blocs harden further. Now, The final piece to watch over the next 24 to 72 hours is practical, not abstract: which air corridors reopen, which remain closed, and whether Ottawa expands transportation options beyond flights. If you have family in the region, the timelines that matter are the next set of departure windows and whether ground routes to functioning airports stay safe and available. Uncertainty remains high, and it's worth separating what's confirmed from what's not. We know how many Canadians have registered and how many have asked for help. We don't yet know how quickly those requests can be cleared, because that depends on conditions on the ground and in the air. That's where we'll leave it today. One story anchored in people trying to get home, and a second story, running quietly underneath, about how Canada positions itself when crises make old assumptions harder to rely on. I'm Ivy.